regular meeting of the Romeo Planning Commission will come to order. We'll start with the roll call.
Stegner,
Here.
Luther, Foltz,
Here.
Trbovic,
Here.
Kuzmano, Grandstaff,
Here.
Hall,
Here.
and Webb.
Here.
Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from last meeting? Anybody have any questions or changes or suggestions? Everybody's good? All right. Make a motion to approve the minutes from,
Make a motion that we approve.
Webb, okay.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nobody, and now we have the public forum portion of our meeting. I guess at this point, Steve, you want to introduce yourself to everybody? There's nobody here, so we'll...
Sure. I'm Steve Casson. I'm a certified city planner. I actually retired from the Macomb County Department of Planning and Economic Development, where I was the director of the county for 15 years. Prior to that, I spent 25 years working for Clinton Township in their planning department. And right now I do consulting work for several communities in the area. I think where I met a few of you was I teach citizen planner for Michigan State. And I'm also an instructor at Oakland University in their Masters of Public Administration program. And I believe what precipitated this, I worked a little bit with Lisa over in Wright Township and that, and you gentlemen here, and I think what precipitated this is some of the discussions I've had with you in the past, all of you, regarding the master plan. So.
Okay, thanks, Steve. For the agenda, we have, you want to discuss the master plan or the ordinance changes first? Well, let's discuss the master plan. I'll make that decision. That is on our agenda because during Steve's class, he let us know that if your master plan is not current, it puts any ordinances that you change or write in peril. Somebody could come in and say, hey, your master plan is not current, so all of this stuff you did is baloney, and they'd probably be right. Is that correct? They might prevail in court.
That is correct. The state law says that you have to zone based on a master plan, and it also says that your master plan has to be updated every 5 years. So in theory, somebody could challenge your decision of your zoning by saying you don't have a valid zoning ordinance, master plan, and then you don't have the full, you're not legally allowed to zone that way. Not that there's any zoning police out there, they're gonna come after you, as I said, but a developer could challenge you and probably win in court.
And that's a problem for us because we have two ordinances we're trying to change currently, and there is some contention on at least one of them already, the fence thing. So what do we have to do here? Romeo hasn't changed that much. I think this was last done 20 years ago, our master plan, which makes it 15 years out of date, which is quite a long time. We haven't changed that much here. We're kind of filled out to the borders. So there's a few ways we can approach this. We should probably rebuild from the beginning, maybe. Won't give you opinions on that. But we could just say it's still adequate, kind of kick the can down the road until we decide to go ahead and redo the master plan seriously with help from people like Steve, and Lisa has a master's degree. I'm sure you'd probably kick in. I'm not sure, but maybe you would. Maybe you would. But so I guess what I'm saying, I'm looking for opinions here. Everybody got a copy of this, most local governments from MSU. It gives you 3 courses of action here. And what I'm concerned about is we're going to rewrite some ordinances and, you know, they're not going to be really technically valid because we don't have a master plan. So that's where we sit. So any thoughts on that from anybody? Yeah, sure, go ahead, yes, of course.
It would be nice to see the master plan. I have not seen a copy since I have been on the planning commission. So I'm sort of shooting in the dark here as to what all is involved. I think we need to be provided with a copy or some copies, and I think we should have it available to us. And I really think all we can do is recommend to the governing body, the village council, that they update the plan.
That's kind of up to us.
The actual updating of the plan is
Yes.
our responsibility.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say, I would ask you why we wouldn't do it. I guess that was my question, why we wouldn't want to do it.
Well, I'm just looking at the fact that we're in the process of changing ordinances. I mean, we can change these ordinances at some peril, as pointed out. Somebody could challenge it, just say you don't have a master plan. And we can say, hey, this is still good, and inform the trustees that we think this is still good, and then inform our surrounding communities. We're required to do that.
Yes.
And then go ahead but I think a new master plan, or at least one that is seriously reviewed, is called for at this point after 20 years. There's some talk kicking around. It's very, it's not serious at this point of, what if we wanted to annex some property to expand the village and stuff like that? You gotta have a master plan, that's viable to do stuff like that. So, we sort of have a dilemma. I don't know, can ask our expert, Steve. I mean, we can just say this is adequate for now.
You would, well, yes and no. You could kick the can down the road, like you
Yes.
said, and just pretend like nothing's different. You can do one of three other things. You can prepare a new master plan, you can prepare an update to the master plan, or you can pass a resolution with basically saying a number of statements, and I could provide those to you, but that conditions have not changed, your population has not significantly changed, your goals and objectives have not, and pass a resolution that you've looked at it, hold a public hearing, and go that route. Now, typically, however, minimal you would want to do is an update, because it would be difficult to say that you're basing everything probably on 1990 census data.
Mhm.
And, even though the community hasn't changed, it has aged. There are other factors that go into a master plan. The other thing is that the state law says you need to have certain components in the master plan that weren't required when that was done. And that is a zoning plan, which is an analysis of your zoning ordinance and how it compares to the master plan. So at a minimum, you would have to update that prior to kicking the can down the road, that kind of thing. And you probably would also need to look at some of the new acts or legislative acts, such as wireless providers that you don't have a lot of control in anymore. You probably want to, place into your master plan whether you're not or in favor of different marijuanas, medical or recreational. That is something. And the other thing that's really, and I think we talked about it before, is the sign regulations now. There is a federal law, a Supreme Court case about 2 years ago called Gilbert versus Town of Gilbert. Arizona, which basically says you can't regulate signage on content. That means you can't have the language in your zoning ordinance that specifies political signs, because in order to understand it's a political sign, you have to read it to say vote for. Or you can't distinguish that between a real estate sign. And in order to read it, know it's a real estate sign, is it says for sale or for lease. So the Supreme Court basically came out and said you can regulate size, you can regulate number of signs on a piece of property, but you can't regulate what it says. So you can't distinguish between real estate signs, grand opening signs, business signs, political signs. So you got to be very careful in that. So that's got to be included in your zoning. So at a minimum, you need to do some updates. You don't have to do the full thing though.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I agree with that. Our dilemma is that they're getting calls at the village office on this signage ordinance, and they want to see that change. So, we could go ahead and take a shot in the dark and change this ordinance, and then, because we are certainly not going to make these changes to the master plan in 1 month, I don't think.
A master plan requires, by enabling legislation, notification of surrounding communities, preparation of the master plan, couple public hearings, and then a 63-day notification requirement to SEMCOG, to the county, and everybody else. So you're looking at a minimum of 4 to 6 months.
I think that's in the
Easily,
book, the
yeah.
class book. So, any ideas on this? Should we just go ahead and do this ordinance? Because nobody wants to wait 6 months for it. They need some guidance.
I personally think we should move ahead with this if after we complete the master plan and coordinating it with the zoning, and if we need to make changes, we can ask for changes at that time. But some of these, I think, we had a case 2 months ago, I think it was, concerning signage in the industrial park.
Right.
And I think we need to put some clarification out there, be it totally legal or not, but at least for now, something to give some guidelines.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I'm a pretty firm believer that if there's a business out there, that they ought to have the ability to be recognized where they're located. And, a 4x5 sign isn't that evasive of a structure to prohibit, to be prohibitive. That would be a bad thing from a business standpoint, so.
So has everybody looked at this? This is, it's just very preliminary ideas for signage and fence regulation changes. Does anybody have any ideas about it? Next month, we're gonna open up these ordinance changes to the public. And we'll have a public meeting about it and try and finalize something.
I have a question on the fence itself there. It says that it could possibly be changed to a concrete block. I'm just curious if they were trying to say that would be a poured concrete fence, some type of barrier, or is that actually just blocks that'll be put in as a mason with two totally different looks? And I think a block look I wouldn't like that personally as my neighbor.
No, I agree with you.
So is it a poured wall, like when they pour in the houses, they have the forms now and they make them look like they're brick? And they're pouring them, by...
Well, we can write that into the ordinance. The history of this is somebody used freeway dividers, Jersey blocks as their fence on the other side of Van Dyke,
Gotcha.
which is not exactly
Yeah.
attractive.
No, that is not.
I guess if
And that would fall under the same thing as a concrete block, in my opinion.
Well, what I'm saying here though is the type of fence shall be in keeping with traditional neighborhood. So if you're in an industrial neighborhood, a concrete block fence is not unreasonable.
Okay.
But, so I think the key words there are keeping with traditional neighborhood. So if you're in in a residential, you can do chain link, wood picket, wood slatted,
Well,
or
that
a
needs to be
brick.
made clear.
Mm-hmm. So I would say you just need some clarification as to where, where that concrete block fence can be.
When
No.
I wrote these up, this was my doing, I was of the opinion that this would go to the village attorney, and he would dress it up and make it more inclusive, or tell me what you've got there, you can't do that way, legally it can't be done that way.
And when you,
I felt this was a starting point for us. Now, yeah, please, make all the changes you want. Nothing is written in stone.
When you put this in here too, you need to, this needs to be in your definition. So what is your definition what is the definition of concrete block? Is it concrete, like what do you call those, cinder blocks?
Cinder
Is it
blocks.
cinder blocks, or is it something different?
In my mind, when I wrote it up, it was cinder block. I have no problem with poured concrete, make it look like brick or just smooth. The whole purpose for me was to try to get away from someone taking the I can't remember what they call it now.
Barrier wall.
The Jersey barriers, they're called. That's those concrete barriers on the road, sort of the.
Barrier wall, yeah, temporary barrier wall.
Yeah, and that I think is inappropriate, especially in a residential area. We're talking industrial, that's something different, but I think the whole purpose in writing this was to try to define a little more. Our ordinance addresses a specific height, and that's basically all it says. So the village hall had no alternative but to approve those blocks, those Jersey blocks, whatever you want to call them. And it's, I don't think it's in keeping with the residential look. So that was the whole purpose in writing this. We can, like I say, work on it if you want. We definitely need to get Mark involved in making it legal, but I think that I viewed this as a starting point. So add or detract all you want.
Yeah, we need to flesh this out a little more. I don't know if we, let's see, type of fence shall be in keeping with traditional neighborhood. You change that to zone, maybe, what's appropriate in the zone. Anyway, we gotta, so any remarks about the sign ordinance, any changes? I think maybe we'll get more feedback when we open it up to the public.
So where you're saying each business within the building is allowed one wall or window sign at their business entrance, size no more than 25% of the total square footage of their business within the building. So like in the case of, what's the name of the automotive place?
Not sure.
No, it shouldn't name insurance.
Which,
The one on 33 Mile Road.
The one that
The one that you need
The
to
one
sign.
that's-
The
that
one
we
that
need
needs
to
to sign.
decide.
Yeah.
oh, I
Yeah.
forgot. Maybe my son, I don't remember.
So what you're saying is they can have a wall sign either, so with that one, the way that it is, the entrance is actually on the west side of the building, but you drive in, like you're driving past it going north or south.
Mhm.
So you're saying they can have one wall sign either above their building, or they can put one in the window, and they can have one at the street, correct?
Or I think Chesterfield called it a monument
A monument sign is out, like, on the grounds
on the
itself.
grounds out at the
Right.
street,
Freestanding.
indicative of different businesses that are in that building.
Mhm.
And I felt you would also need some sort of signage, because if there is more than one business
Mhm.
in that building,
Mhm.
they should be able to advertise, but you don't want a 10-foot sign over there, 4 foot of space or something like that. So it was an attempt to perhaps regulate how much signage they could have.
Mhm.
And I think in one of the ordinances that I was looking at, it made mention of 25%, which seemed like a reasonable number.
The business that we're talking about, Steve, is out in our industrial area, and it's a business that is sort of long and narrow, and these are all, you know, I think this particular one is probably in the furthest back. I have no.
These are tenants of the building?
Yes, there's 4 tenants in the building, so when you're driving by, you see the front of this building, but since there's other buildings there, you don't really necessarily
Nice, okay.
see there. So that's what they're hoping, that they can have a monument type sign out by the road.
And the ordinance doesn't allow monument signs at this time?
It does not mention anything about them. I just thought with an update or a change in the signage, to add that verbiage to allow them in the industrial district.
It's quite common to
Yeah.
allow a monument sign and then wall signage for each business
Yeah.
within the building.
That seemed
normal.
in 2 or
Yes.
3 that I looked at was the what you would want. And
That's what they're requesting.
Okay, yeah, doesn't seem out of the ordinary to me.
Right. Yeah.
Any other comments from anybody on this? I guess I want to say about the fence regul.
Can I make one more
Sure,
comment about the
yes.
sign?
Of
Okay,
course.
now, I don't know if there's something, this is one thing I did not look into in the ordinance. But say, for instance, like with Lanza, they're on a corner, and they're the only occupant of the building, but they have a wall sign on each corner. So they have a wall sign on the south corner and one on the east corner, but they also have something on the ground. Is there a provision in the ordinance, or was that a special request by them?
They did come before the planning commission
To
when they
have
were
the-
doing,
When they're on a
when they
corner
were doing
building?
their signage. And I believe they were granted that.
So Steve, let me ask you, in a case like this building that we're talking about, you can see the sign when you're driving by, but if you're behind the building, so like, let's say you're on, coming off Apollo Road and you're going up 33, and you're not sure, but if they had a sign, so they could they make the choice to put their 25-foot sign either on the back side of the building or the front side of the building?
If your ordinance allowed it, typically in a corner lot, it would say you're allowed a sign, a wall sign on each facade fronting a major or secondary road,
Facing the second.
facing the street.
We need to add on.
Now, the zoning board of appeals could grant a waiver of that, but
Mhm.
In this particular business,
You can't see the front.
no.
You can't see the front of the building from
It's
the
not
road,
on
no
a
matter
corner.
what you do.
it would be
It's
a
just-
hardship to the zoning board of appeals.
It's not on a corner at all.
No, it's like that, right?
Mhm.
So what I'm thinking is in the case of a building like this, okay, because this is a completely separate building from this one, yes, it's a complex, but a monument sign here, one here, and possibly let them put their sign back here, or if they want it here, let them put it there, because this actually does, you know, Powell is down here, and until there's something built back here, you can
Which
see
there
the
will
back.
be.
If there's gonna be something built back there, then it wouldn't be beneficial for them to put
But
it there.
also, this is
Oh.
4 units.
Yeah,
So I believe the ones that we're dealing with right now. So they're all the way in the back of this
right, so you can't see it.
condominium.
And then this, there is something back here, so,
Right.
so they have something here and something here. So in case you didn't notice it driving by here, you might notice it up here.
There's 4
Yes.
building, or businesses
Tenants.
there,
Mhm.
and you're talking about, here's a monument sign, right?
Right,
And you're talking about a second monument sign?
no, on a wall sign,
On the building.
a wall sign on the building.
For all 4 businesses?
Because you may not see this.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody may not, 20 square feet, I mean, it's not small, but it's not huge either. You
But
know,
then-
it's gonna depend upon the size of their letters, what the name of their business is, you know, various different things.
But then, Lisa, would they would each
That would
have to
be
have
the-
their own sign on their,
Well, they can put
door
signage
or
on, they
whatever.
can put writing on their door.
okay.
Writing on the door is not considered a sign, or is it?
Yes, typically.
It is typically considered a sign?
So,
Okay, so it would be, this is a hard one. Can you see what I'm drawing?
No.
This is the roadway. This is the driveway going into the buildings.
Yep.
This is where the fronts of all of their buildings are. You can't see the backside of this building when you're coming down the road. The only thing you're gonna see is this. So would it be more beneficial for them to put a sign here or put one on the wall? Or could they have an option to do either or?
The building itself or each tenant.
The building itself, well, the building or each tenant.
Well, you would regulate the size according to the
Right.
building, then you would say each tenant would be allowed an additional 20% of their building facade, or 10%, or 25 square feet. I mean, it depends how you regulate it, you can do either.
Right.
You can give them the option, you can make it to discretion of the planning commission.
I can see where their problem is, because you can't see the backside.
yeah.
You can't see the front side unless you pull in there. So they
Usually
do have
is
a
you can-
problem.
You can never create a sign ordinance that's gonna make
Everybody
Negative.
have that.
everybody, or it's gonna apply to every condition in the village.
Exactly.
So, and that's why you have the
Because
zoning
those are
board of
not
appeals or
all-
the planning commission. Yeah.
Right.
So you gotta make it based on what you think the majority would need, and then allow variances. Typically, what would happen, you would allow a monument sign, a wall sign facing for the main building, facing the street, and then each tenant would be allowed a certain square footage of signage up there in front of their unit.
In front of the unit.
That's what typically happens, but it doesn't have to, that's up to
Very
you.
happy with that, I'm sure.
so we have to turn all this into English.
Into legal English from Mark.
Yeah, I can get together with Mark. Yeah, we need to attach these fences to the different zones, regulations about the fences. Residential is gonna be different than industrial. can we allow, like cinder block in the residential areas if it has a brick face? I mean, do we want to get that specific on this stuff?
Or you just let them
Why not
bring that
just-
one to the board?
Why not just call it decorative, decorative aggregate material? That define it all? Decorative aggregate material?
Pretty cement is what that sounds like.
That's basically what it breaks down to.
Okay, yeah. Wow, this has got to be written out before the next meeting. Anybody else have any language they want to add to these things before we open this up to the public? And that sign thing's we're gonna have to write that out.
Well,
Just to get a better understanding on the 25% and what it's written here.
Uh-huh,
and it,
So, that, my understanding from our previous meeting, that would be like the 25% of the, say, the front of the building, not the building itself. So if they have, 1,000 square feet, they can't have a sign that's 250 square feet, right?
yeah.
But it would be like, say, the front of their building is 20 feet wide.
Well, what I said was
Yeah, that
no more than 25% of total square footage of their business within the building.
Right.
So in other words, they have a part of this larger building. Their square footage, they can have a sign based on 25% of their square footage of their business, not the total building size.
Right.
We can tighten that up if that's,
I think what Todd says
Unclear.
makes sense.
huh?
I think what Todd says makes sense. It's really clear if you say that the frontage of their building, so you don't have to fight it later.
Do you want to say frontage? Because what
Oh,
if
the
they're
face of,
a side, a side business?
Does it say
Corner, you
lineal
mean?
feet?
If they're
Is
corner.
it-
somewhere they have their
If
front.
some of the buildings in the industrial park have 3 or 4 businesses within them, and they have separate entrances. So what I was saying was, if you are on the side of the building, you can have a sign there. You've also got a sign out front on the monument sign. So you're advertised, your name is out front, and where your business is, where your entrance is, you would want a sign. Would you want something up on the front of the building and you drive up and you go into the front of the building and they know you gotta go around to the side over here? I don't know. I thought it was, clean it up as best you want, I guess.
By no means was I
No,
criticizing what you wrote. I
I
was just trying
totally
to.
understand, and I'm not in any way defending. I was just trying to explain why I put the verbiage that way. It's, none of this is written in stone, friends. It's just something to put down on paper to get us started talking. And that was the whole purpose to this, to get input. So however you want to change it is not, I don't own this, so I'm just trying to explain why I used the language I did. change as you would like, please.
Well, the ordinance right now says that
What
you
page are you
cannot
on there?
have more than 2 signs. One shall be a freestanding or ground sign, which could be a monument sign, located along the street or highway to which the business has its principal access. So that would be along, in where we're talking about, that would be 33 miles. So there's that one. The second permitted sign shall be a wall sign. Total sign area shall not exceed 1 square foot for each lineal foot of building frontage, up to a maximum of 500 square feet.
Depends on the
So,
lineal feet
it
out
depends
there
on the
in
lineal
front.
feet, and it says the total sign area, so it's saying that your monument sign and your wall sign cannot exceed 500 square feet.
So you're putting the signage from the monument sign?
The total sign area.
You're including that? See, I disagree with that.
Well, see, that's what the ordinance right now says.
Yeah.
What page is that?
Can you,
37.
can you provide an opinion on that?
What page?
37.
37. Yeah, that's the zoning ordinance.
This is the one I read a few times because of,
They can have a monument sign and they can have a wall sign
and then Ron's.
already,
roofing
not
guy,
exceeding
he's got one of
500.
those.
but with this monument sign,
Sandwich signs?
No,
but this monument
Just,
sign, I would think would have to incorporate all 4 of these businesses in this sign.
Yes,
One of the
that's the way
things,
I've been thinking about it
Right.
all along.
They would have to incorporate all 4 of them in this one, but then they would each be allowed a wall sign.
But that part of the ordinance that says combined, that combined footage, I think that should be changed. I mean, you have your monument sign, and everybody has the same size sign within the monument sign, because you're advertising more than one business, right?
Yeah. In this
So
case, you'd be
yeah.
advertising 4.
Yeah, so you get, a sign, everybody gets the same size sign in that monument sign. And then depending on the square footage of your
which I believe
frontage.
they're all the same.
one thing that concerned me
We don't really maybe
is
have
I
to
do
change
not
it.
think that we want this signage that I wrote up here. I specifically tagged it industrial district. I do not want that to apply to the commercial district downtown. I
No.
think, see, the way it reads on page 37, general commercial district and industrial district. So you are allowing in the commercial district this verbiage to apply to that. I don't,
Well,
I
but
don't
think
see
there's-
downtown
Having
having,
monuments.
having
But I-
monument signs and
Yeah, right.
it's,
But there is a designation though, because the central business district is what the DDA is comprised of, okay? Which is, on the east side of town, it's Dickinson Street to Washington Street, I'm sorry, Steve, and down to South Bailey, and then back to Rawls, from Church to Washington. That central business district is not in here. This is general commercial. And general commercial, it looks like everything south of that on Main Street. This is the master plan. Cindy, can you hand me that? So the burgundy area is general commercial. The purple area is central business, central business district. So there, that's where you're different, that's where, because here's your central business district signage right here.
okay.
It's a completely separate district from general commercial.
I would not want
Right.
in general commercial, I would not want this to be involved.
No.
And on page 37, that's what that's addressing. So I specifically wanted the signage because that is the area that we're having problems with, the industrial district. And I wanted the signage for out there and have it specifically apply to them.
Right.
That was the people we had come in a couple months ago with a legitimate complaint.
Absolutely.
And I think this was an attempt to address some of that and change for that specific area without getting into our downtown district,
Right.
be it
Be it central business or
central
commercial.
business, the commercial, whatever you wanna call it in town.
Mhm.
I don't want 15 signs up.
Is there a way though, not to throw a wrench on everything else we're doing, is to add this part where the signs being allowed in the windows in the downtown area, where we're only doing one sign in the window instead of having them plastered in every window? While we're adapting a sign ordinance?
We really need to look at our
Just to make it
signage
look cleaner
for
down there,
that
so,
area.
yeah.
Because I don't think it's much being enforced, no matter what the sign ordinance says, to be honest with you.
I think we're aware.
We are aware.
Yeah, I think
Not to
that
exceed
should be
50%.
one of our issues
That's what it says right
down the
now.
road. We've got many
Right.
things to address, and we need to address enforcement of some of these, and make a point of getting that to the council to have them do something about it, to the legislative body, and have them, we cannot do it, we can only advise.
How did you interpret
The
this?
way I'd interpret that is that you're allowed one sign out front, and then your wall signage, no matter how many signs you have on the walls, can't exceed 500 square feet.
Okay. So if they did a monument sign out front with sign facing both sides, say 20 square foot on each side, which would be 40 square feet. They had 4 businesses, so 4, 8, 12, so it'd be 160 in the monument sign. Then they could split the remaining 340 between the 4 businesses on the wall.
I didn't even interpret it that way. I read it as the wall sign can't exceed 500 square feet.
So that, okay,
Gee, that's big.
You're allowed a wall sign in the
Sounds
front
like
building, and
massive.
it can't exceed 500 square feet.
That's
That's
a
what I
really
read.
big
see, the way I
sign.
read it is,
It's very unclear.
it is very
Yeah.
unclear. Mm-hmm.
So Steve, our ordinance right now,
So,
they
yeah,
could
that's where it was on that piece.
actually have a monument sign out there?
Yeah.
It's, I mean, that's what it
It
says.
says
Each
again.
individual business occupying its own site shall be permitted to display not more than 2 signs. One shall be a freestanding or ground sign
Which is a
located
monument
along
sign.
the street or highway to which the business has its principal access. The second permitted sign shall be a front wall sign. The total sign area shall not exceed 1 square foot for each lineal foot of building frontage, up to a maximum of 500 square feet.
Massive,
Depends on the size of the building.
yeah.
Well,
Still a
right.
big sign.
But it can't,
Lanes and-
all right, depends on the size of the
Is that
building.
monument sign, that's attached to that square footage? They're combined?
It says the total, that's where I'm confused at. This is where I'm confused. The total sign area.
Because we don't need to change that much. If you look at it, we just divorce that monument sign from the total square footage and prescribe an exact size for a monument size that everybody gets.
I can see how you're reading that. I mean, I could interpret it the other way too, but yeah, it needs clarified.
Yeah, it is.
I can see it.
And I think we definitely want it to be for the industrial area only.
I mean, this basically says that 1 square foot for a lineal foot means you have to have a 500-foot long building or
Right.
that, which is not gonna happen.
No,
It's the new Amazon building.
I mean,
So not to, but I'm having a hard
The
time
building's
recalling
not that
exactly
big.
why they,
I guess they.
what the issue was
I
for
think
them.
there was some issue with them exceeding the square footage that was allowed. By having the signs that they have right now on the building and then adding to that,
With a monument
which is
sign.
probably how it was interpreted before with the combination of all those. I'm
Mhm.
just guessing. I'm not the one that made the
Mhm.
decision to.
Well, you want, let's take a shot at rewriting that tonight and getting something that we can present. We don't need to change that much, it doesn't seem like. And then we can do a little more research on these fences, I think, in terms of types of things. So, do we want to separate that monument from the building sign? And just say,
Probably be a good idea.
this is how big you can make it. And leave it up to them, whatever the hell they want. Whatever the heck they want.
You're saying just make a monument sign? the
Well,
size
they're
of the sign.
marrying the two signs as what's allowable for your total square footage, but I think that monument sign should just be a separate sign.
Certain
Is that-
size?
Yeah, whatever that is. You know anything about that, Steve? What-
Well, I don't have your ordinance, but typically an ordinance would show the maximum size of the monument sign.
Yeah,
80 square feet, 120, whatever that might be.
we don't have that in front of us.
Does it go
I've
by-
got I've got mine right here,
What?
but I'm not seeing anything that gives you a specific size on a monument sign.
Because what if the
I'm
building
looking.
occupies 6 tenants? And what if it all occupies 1, still same size?
Yes, that's what I'm, just for
Pick a size.
monument signs. The steely.
Yeah, because Jay, we have this particular one that's condo unit, you know, as far as 4.
Yeah.
And then we have a one on the Countville, Parrot, on Parrot Court, that's
Mhm.
Lanson, that takes up 2.5, you know, I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
enormous.
huge.
So, yeah, that's the difference. They have a huge sign on both sides.
You might want to just, as simple as an industrial district, each development can have a monument sign not to exceed
Yes.
8 by 10,
Correct.
which would be 80 square foot per side. And each tenant within the space is allowed whatever you want, 25% or 2 lineal foot per frontage of the tenant space, something like that. And that would clarify everything.
Are you writing that? Or something else?
Monument sign not to exceed 80 square feet.
We had a width.
Total.
Yeah, I had 5 foot high, 4 foot wide.
5 foot 4, 20
That's on
20
the
square feet per side. You can do that. Sure.
For a monument sign or for a wall sign?
Monument.
Monument.
Just a monument.
What was the? what was
Typically,
that?
they're about 6 by 8, 6 by 10.
Everybody's card in it, right? Is that what you're
5
saying?
feet by
Mhm.
4
About
feet.
6 foot high
Yeah,
and 10 foot wide is typical in most of the
10
community.
feet?
Yeah, 60 feet.
Wow.
Well, because if you think about driving by.
Driving by here, it doesn't look that big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, 10 feet.
But
that-
60
you can go
square
6 by
feet.
8, you can go 4 by 5. I mean, it's up to you.
60 square foot per sign.
Guess you wouldn't want it too little.
No.
Not when you're driving by, because
No.
it means you can't see it. If you're,
Right.
if you're whizzing by at 50, it's like, what was that?
I think you'd be speeding over
You
there.
you better not be doing 50 down one of those roads.
No. Front end would be gone.
Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
All right, so this is for the monument.
I'm handy.
And then, all right, so on that, if we did 60 square foot per sign, would you split that evenly between the number of buildings, or between the number of businesses in the building?
You can't dictate what goes on it.
Well, but I'm just saying, can you say how many square feet each one gets?
probably wouldn't want to because you're
No.
trying,
Then okay.
you're kinda, yep.
They can figure that out on their
Yeah.
own.
If they had
They can
one.
figure that out on their
Tenant,
own.
yeah.
Let them
Let
fight
them
it
figure
out.
that out.
Yeah,
Let them
that's their
figure that
problem, not
They're
ours.
allowed 60 feet, let the
And then what
owner
did you want on
decide.
the wall sign? Not to exceed. Call it a monument or ground sign. And what did you want the building?
What do
What did you
we,
want the wall sign to be?
it's, what do we have, not more than 25, what did we say? 25% of the total square footage of frontage. What's the front, what does the ordinance say now about frontage? I'm so happy on my,
That's where it talks about lineal, the lineal feet.
I mean, I thought it was good. I just,
Total sign area shall not exceed 1 square foot for each lineal foot of building frontage, up to a maximum of 500 feet.
that's, any problems with that? It sounds okay to me.
Does that sound all right?
Yeah, but you're saying the frontage of the building?
Mm-hmm.
So if one business has the front of the building, you're giving them,
You get 1 square foot for each foot
okay,
of building.
and then the other tenants around would also then get the same amount?
Or they have to split that up between
And they
the
have to
building
split that
owner
up
would
between,
decide that,
they have to
right?
split that up the same way they have to split this up.
Kinda like at a Starkweather Alley kinda deal maybe, where they got down the side of the wall.
I picked that 25% of total square footage out of, and I cannot remember who I lifted that from, in doing research on signage. And I thought that was a good way to perhaps control each business as to what size sign they could put up. That's why I said no more than 25% of total square footage of their business, not of the building, of their business. So in other words, a sign in their window, over their door, however they want to put it, but it's 25% of their square footage.
Mhm. That's how I think of
I
it.
understand it.
That
Okay,
was,
so-
and that wasn't my brilliant, I stole that, so.
Okay.
Would you,
So back
would
to
you
your-
wanna put a
So let's say this
maximum
is a
though? Because I
4,000
could
square
see
foot
if you had a
building.
business
Let's
that
say
was
this business has
30
1,000
foot
square
wide
feet.
Yeah,
So it's
and
1,000
100
square
foot
feet
deep,
times
that's
25.
3,000 square
Yeah.
feet.
So how many
So
square
they
foot
would be
building
allowed
is that? How much sign do they
750
get?
square feet of signage.
25,000.
I don't think that's what you really meant.
Not to exceed
See,
then.
100 square feet, whatever that might
asking
be.
math
Yeah.
questions tonight.
That's-
No, but
that's-
the way he's talking
that-
about it
that's-
is everybody gets their own sign
Right, based upon
based
whatever
upon
amount
the
of space
frontage.
they have.
Yeah, right.
But based upon how many square feet they have inside the building.
No, not that,
No.
it's on, it's on
Steve,
frontage,
total
not
square-
square feet.
Square footage of, no,
That's the way he's written it, but I don't think,
each
doesn't-
business within the building is allowed 1 wall or window sign at their business entrance. Size is no more than 25% of total square footage of their business within the building.
there's something I'm missing. Okay.
So if you've got a 4,000 square foot building,
Are there businesses within the building that can't be seen at all? Is that
no,
seems,
but if you, okay, so if I have a,
Yeah.
That was the problem that lady was
that have no
discussing.
frontage at all?
They had no frontage, they were on the side, and they wanted signage on their area, and they wanted a sign out front, a
To pull
monument
people
sign.
in. There's actually one business that would have that end,
Uh-huh.
and then 3 behind it.
Don't they have a door somewhere?
Well, yeah,
they're
but,
right here.
but they don't have the frontage.
They all have doors
Okay.
right here. But this is 33 Mile Road, this is the road you pull, that's where you pull in
Okay.
at. You can't see anything until you pull in and look at these buildings.
All right, but you can have a sign based on the
You
frontage,
have a sign,
right?
yeah, but this,
Whatever
that's,
happened to street addresses? Anyway, here. Yeah, well, same drawing.
Oh,
Yeah, so there's something I'm missing about this interior business. To me, I'm thinking that everybody has a front to, or a side.
Probably, or a back,
Yeah,
front, side, or back, depending on how the
Somehow they have a door.
structure is set up.
Well, the 2 in
There
the
could
so
middle.
if you have a
if there could
concealed
be-
entrance,
If there could be 4 businesses in one building, the guy that's on the back, you know, he needs a sign also. To put all the signs on the front of the building would be confusing, I think.
okay, yeah, well, what I'm seeing in my head is something like a flea market, what you're describing. And I'm not following you. I don't get it. So we have a street here, and here's all these businesses. Apparently, there's a business back here that's concealed from the street, is that what we're
no,
talking
this is
about?
the street here.
Yeah, okay, street, and
This is
here's
the
your
driveway.
street.
This is the
Okay,
driveway.
yeah,
And here's the parking. Here's a door, here's a door, here's a door, here's
got
a
it.
door.
So who can't be seen when you come up
You
this
can
driveway?
when you pull in here.
Yeah, right,
You can
and you've
when you
got a
come-
monument sign here now.
Right, now, so now you have a monument sign here, but they each get a wall sign on here.
Yeah, okay,
As the ordinance is
That's what-
written.
yeah, all right,
But you just, now we have to figure out how big these can be.
yeah, okay. Is each bay the same size?
I don't know, do you know that, Cindy?
I don't.
Well, and there's nothing saying that one
Just
person.
because that one is possibly the same size doesn't mean the next one will be.
Right,
You know,
I
the
mean, some
building
of-
is-
Right, so if you base it on square, lineal
Right,
width of that frontage, then you
Yeah.
kinda got a sign ordinance.
right. Because there's nothing saying that somebody couldn't come in and rent this one and this one
Yeah,
and
knock the wall.
knock the wall out and, so you could have 3 businesses essentially.
Yeah, and they
But
could,
if you made it equal for each
And
one
more
on the
lineal
wall.
feet.
Right.
but
so-
they could come before the
Mhm.
planning commission and say, hey, I occupy, we can make a provision for that.
They just combine
Well,
the
if we had a
lineal, they just
maximum-
combine the size
This is
of both
Powell.
signs, that's all.
No, I'm sorry, 33.
But you still have a maximum, right, not to exceed?
33?
Yeah,
You still do a maximum not to
Yeah.
exceed.
Sorry, and
You just gotta figure out-
For a monument.
How much?
These are 2 buildings that are pretty
right.
close to.
I
each
find
other.
it to
So
say
you see
That's
what I'm
not what
saying?
we're talking about.
So here's the monument sign, and then 1, 2, 3, 4.
See, this is the way it was in my head initially.
Yeah, I mean, I
You just
get,
have
I
to figure
totally,
it out.
Okay,
yeah, I totally
fine,
get it.
so here's how wide your building is.
Even if these guys buy the whole thing and
Figure it
they
out.
knock all the walls out, there's
Okay,
still
so
one
that's not a
sign,
problem.
you
But
can't
then
go
I like-
maximum of 500 feet, which
She'd like to
500
have,
square feet is
Something
huge.
out here that
Cool.
says,
Right.
this is here, this
So
is
that's
here,
what you gotta
this is here,
figure
and
out.
we're here.
Because my
All the way back
math
there.
brain is not working tonight, so.
What's one of these
So-
tables,
A
8
wall
foot, so
sign
put them all together,
and
it's
this sign would be
25,
very
24
helpful.
foot, so I mean, I'm just going.
Yeah, so I
that's a big
think we
sign.
got it here. It's
Billboard. Yeah, it's bigger than a billboard.
So I have a question about, let's say this building here, it's a corner building. Can we allow them to have a sign on the building since they're a corner building? 2 places? One,
No, because if when we put the maximum on there,
well, if it's assuming we can figure this out, well, let's see.
Well, like in the case of Lansing, I know they allowed 2 wall signs, one on Powell and one facing, what is that, Parrot Court?
Uh-huh.
And then they have their actual, do they have a ground sign? Or do they just have the logo
I believe-
around the door?
I believe what they came in for were 2 wall signs.
Mhm.
Can you just make an easy, needs the ordinance change, and then if those people like that have an issue, they come in, because otherwise, I mean, if you're trying
Sure.
to do it to 10 different people, it's not gonna be conducive.
Because every place is different.
Correct.
Well, there are corner buildings, we know that, so. So anyway, you were writing, and I was.
Right, so we need to figure out what you want. Okay, so wall sign. Not to exceed. How about one wall sign, not to exceed,
I have a tape measure in my truck. Do we want to lay out and show what 200 to 500 square feet is?
well, we know
I mean-
500 square feet's big.
I mean, just throwing it out there. I mean,
Let's see what it says here.
it's probably a place in New York someone's living right now, 250 square foot in an apartment. You know?
That entire wall there is 60 by 8, so it'd be 480 square feet, that wall. The entire wall.
There you go.
Okay, so what's that window?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
what is that window?
Right. I mean, I think a 0 got added onto this. You know what I mean? If you were 50 foot would
How about
be,
24 square feet?
Sure.
24 square feet reasonable?
Yeah.
It's 4 by
business.
6, right?
Not to exceed.
Now, that's for the wall.
That's for one
This is-
wall
This is the
sign,
wall sign.
not to exceed 24.
Not to exceed 24 square feet
So it's not, okay.
Per
all right.
tenant?
per tenant.
There you go.
And this
then-
all pertains in the industrial district.
All right,
Okay.
if you did make it 25 though, it could make it even. It could be a perfect square. Just throwing it out there.
you wanna make
You
it
go 5 by
25?
5 would, you know, me, I like them square.
All right, 25,
Sure.
25,
I'm
Okay.
good with that. I serve my purpose. We're
25.
talking about it.
25
That's
square
all I
foot
care
per
about.
tenant.
Pretty good.
One wall sign not to
Per
exceed
Okay.
25 square foot per tenant.
And the monument you said was gonna be 60.
Yep.
All right, now let me throw a little wrench in that.
Mhm.
Now, come on. What if someone doesn't want a wall sign, they want a sign in their window?
And then we can
Do they
revert-
have to come to us for,
Well, you could, I mean, if you wanna do it that way, you can put it as one wall or window sign, not to exceed 25 square feet per tenant.
okay.
there is a window maximum in here.
It's not to exceed 30.
30%
But
of the
that's,
window.
that's in the South Main
That's-
Street office
that's
district. though.
downtown, though.
Yeah, that's downtown.
I don't wanna mess with that.
I'm just saying, adopt that same language for this.
Yeah, I understand what, yeah.
Seems reasonable. Listen to the rain.
It's weird, it's raining.
It's rain.
Yeah, so,
Thank God my umbrella is safe in
tell her right now, we're good. Thank God it's raining.
So would that,
Killing us.
would the wall sign be one wall or window?
Yes, it would be
Sign.
either or.
Right.
Couldn't split it
Yes,
up.
you can't split it up, it's either or.
Mhm.
Can you read what you have
One wall
written?
or
Do you
window.
want to?
What I have is one monument sign not to exceed 60 square foot per side, no higher than 6 feet tall, 10 feet wide. Monument or round sign.
Now, we're just gonna incorporate that into the existing ordinance, right? Scratch a couple things out and insert that in there, right? Or is that totally replace what you have there? I
Need a
maybe for the
replacement.
first meeting ever, did not bring my ordinance book, so.
I think we all agree that this is as about as clear as mud, so
Mhm.
we ought to just replace.
Okay.
again, though, you have to take into consideration what Bill mentioned. This also includes the general commercial district, so what he's concerned with, and I understand his concern completely, so you have to remember, that bank's gonna go in on Main Street.
Mhm.
If you put this in here now, they can put a 60 square foot sign on Main Street,
Mhm.
because they haven't been approved their sign yet, right?
Nope.
So they can put a 60 square foot sign on Main Street.
That's why I wanted to be industrial.
But they're-
Yeah, well, we
I
just
thought- yeah.
call it out
But
as industrial
They're in the
district.
general.
They're in office.
aren't-
The
well,
new
Can you
bank
make
is
a
in
note,
office,
not for the
right?
bank in downtown? No,
They're in the office district. Because that was the issue with the drive-through.
No, they're in the commercial district. If you look at this map, well, wait a minute, I take that back.
No, they're in the office district.
They are in the office, okay, they're in the office district. So let's see, where does office go? Well, okay, you're right.
Well,
So
Lisa,
then we don't need to
only-
worry about it
I
then.
only say that is because that was the issue
Right,
of why they needed to come before
right,
us.
my mistake, I'm looking at the wrong map,
Yeah.
my mistake.
Well, that one's pretty hard to see.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the wrong map, so, my mistake, I apologize.
No problem. But I think, like Bill said, how do you take out, maybe Steve can just.
You could
how do
strike that.
Could you strike
Can you
the
strike?
general commercial, Steve, in that, and just put industrial, or add that somewhere
No,
else?
just take industrial out of here. The first one on D, take
Okay.
industrial out. And then do an E for industrial.
Okay.
Okay, and add it to
Add an E for all that you just said for industrial.
Okay.
So
Okay, and then add E,
E.
industrial.
It's the industrial districts, the following
Right.
standards shall apply to all signs within the industrial
Right.
district.
Okay.
So the first one would be for general commercial, and then the second one would be for industrial. And then your, so basically you're just amending D and adding an E.
Now, while they're amending, should there be an amendment to consider buildings that are on corner lots, so they don't have to ask for special permission?
You can, but you'd have to go back and amend everything in all the districts too. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's true.
it's really
Mhm.
getting into a major,
Yeah, so that's probably wait till you do the master plan and then do the zoning ordinance for the
Mhm.
corner.
So, Lisa, can I ask you
Because that'll
something?
come up.
What, you said one monument sign not to exceed 60 square feet per side,
Right.
no higher than 6 feet
6 foot high, 10
Tall.
foot wide. Yeah.
Or
Height not to
10
exceed, height
10
not to
feet
exceed
wide.
6 feet, width
Okay.
not to exceed 10.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Should that say sign area not to exceed?
right?
Sign area not to exceed 60 square feet. Because you can't make them include the poles or the brick or
Yeah, we've
whatever
had
they're doing.
issues with that.
Yeah, so sign area not to exceed 60 square feet.
Per
And I would
side.
call it a monument or round sign.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're confident you have all the language? written down?
Yeah, and I listened to the video too.
Oh, okay, cool. That's good. So do we want to
Josh,
make
you're
a,
filming, right? All right.
somebody want to make a motion that we adopt this language as a preliminary change to the ordinance pending a public meeting?
Can I make a motion that we schedule a public meeting
That'll be next month.
to discuss the language?
Yes.
And then
Okay, if you want to do it that way, that's fine.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Unanimous. That's sort of lethargic, unanimous. All right, now on this other one, I sort of think that we need some more specific language in there about the types of fences we're talking about. And I don't know that I'm armed with enough information about fences to contribute to that. Does anybody know a lot about fencing? I do not. I mean, we can say no Jersey blocks, no poured concrete. Can we say no poured concrete for a residential area? Again, yeah. Any thoughts from anyone?
Are we writing in there that there's no barrier, actually that's going in there? Or are we just identifying what we are allowed to use?
Well, we definitely need to,
Anybody knows?
yeah, what happens there typically, Steve, do people, are most ordinance real specific on this, or?
Most will say has to be brick, decorative block, or another suitable material as approved by the planning commission.
So, you can do that? You can just leave it to the planning commission to
Sure
decide
can.
later?
That's discretionary, yep.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. I've never seen that happen. Okay,
Let me see if I can pull one up for you.
yeah. Well, we really want to, okay. I'm got shot up with all kinds of drugs today from the cardiologist and things like this.
Reading that over your shoulder. I was reading that over your shoulder.
Well, there's a provision in the ordinance right now that talks about like walls, so in other words, kind of like a concrete block. Walls shall be constructed of decorative poured reinforced concrete, reinforced protective face brick, or similar decorative building material acceptable to the planning commission. The brick or facing shall be compatible with brick used on the site and shall be durable, weather resistant, and easy to maintain.
How did that,
So it sounds like that's already in there, it sounds like you don't have to change, you
Well,
just need
the-
to try to omit whatever you have.
how did that Jersey block get permitted? Against
But
that
again-
language? Against that language?
What page?
But I don't
It's
know
not
that that's,
It's not
that's
poured.
site development and environmental standards. That's under the site development rules. It doesn't necessarily,
Where are you at there?
it's on page 20.
I ask this, that if this is adopted, what will happen then? Will that, all of a sudden this barrier wall, someone's coming the next day and taking it out, or how does that?
Kind of grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So this is just
What
for
what
future
is,
things,
what
whatever we're
is
doing.
there
What is there is there.
is there, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute, this is, okay, this is under screening requirements, so this only, planning commission may require screening whenever construction or development in a commercial or industrial district abuts a residential zoning district. So walls are under Article 6. Walls, green belts. $6,191. See, okay, all right, but let me. I remember this when we were here the last time. Residential fences 5. The location, height, and construction of fences in all residential and non-residential zoning districts shall conform to the requirements of the Village of Romeo Fence Ordinance Number 317. That's in the Code of Ordinances, that is not in the zoning ordinance.
Yeah. And I believe in the village ordinance, it specifies no higher than and does not in any way address any type of
Material
materials.
or anything
Yeah.
of the kind.
Yeah, and so the village was required to approve that because
There's nothing,
there was nothing to prevent that from happening.
right. So,
So this is an attempt,
okay, but,
So that's gotta get changed. then.
so I guess my question is here is, does the planning commission have the authority to amend or recommend an amendment to the code of ordinances?
You could recommend it to the village council, but
Okay.
you have no authority to adopt it or hold a public hearing unless they refer it back, if it's not part of the zoning ordinance.
Well, I don't
Doesn't look like.
I don't see that it is, because
yeah,
section 310,
yeah.
it refers us back to shall conform to the requirements of the Village of Romeo Fence Ordinance Number 317. So that's the code of ordinances.
Yeah, I'm looking at Clinton Townships right now, and it's the same way. It's under the jurisdiction of the township board and not the planning commission at all.
So we can make a recommendation, but that's all we can do.
So we need to make a motion to,
We probably have to have our verbiage down to make that motion too,
Yeah.
right?
That they do have provisions on the types of materials that can be used, and that would not be allowed in Clinton. It's gotta be masonry, it's gotta have a foundation, that kind of thing. And I think that's the difference, is the foundation. What'd you call those, I'm sorry, those things? What'd you-
Jersey block?
Jersey blocks, yeah, they obviously don't have a foundation.
No.
Right.
Right, so that's how you could get them. Even a cyclone fence has some sort of foundation.
24 inches, I think, is
Right.
the standard.
24 inches for what?
You gotta have a,
Chain link?
yeah, an anchor.
You gotta go
The
below the
roof.
frost
Gotta go
line,
below the
typically.
frost
Well, I
line.
think
42
42 is the
Is it
frost law.
42?
Yeah.
See, I'm dyslexic apparently. It's that deep?
Mhm. Oh
I
yeah,
thought it was
dug up frost.
24.
Dug up 3-foot of frost for sure. Yeah.
Well. Okay, so we gotta hand this over to those guys, I guess. Just that it has to be changed to include footing.
Yeah, suggest we change.
So, motion,
That could be your motion.
Yeah.
Recommend to the village council, is that what you call it?
Yes.
The village board or council, that they amend the fence ordinance to require footings under all fences.
What is the
Or
number of
support.
the ordinance?
317.
317,
That's not the, that's their number, right?
that is their ordinance, yeah.
317?
Village of Romeo fence ordinance number 317.
Romeo fence ordinance, okay, so, Romeo fence ordinance number 317 be amended to include footing requirements. Okay? Anybody want to make that motion, or you want me to make it? I don't care.
So moved.
Okay. You got that language? Okay. Well, I don't know what else we can do here tonight.
You need a second for the motion?
Did we, okay,
Second.
we didn't vote, sorry. Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? Okay. And we gotta get Bill a master plan.
Is it
Does
available?
everybody have a copy of the master plan?
Is it
The only
available in
reason I
electric
have
format at all, or is it gotta be printed? Physical copy?
Yeah, we gotta find out why people don't have these master plans. They're not gonna be able to work on it unless people have copies. I thought everybody got one.
Did you
when
ask
they
him for the
wrote.
PDF?
You're smiling at me.
I'll look
It
at
was
You're
available in
joking,
electric
right?
format.
Well, surely,
Okay.
uh,
That would be great.
Christine can
Fair
print
enough.
these out, you
So you
know.
send a PDF. it'll be
She's got
like
all
this.
the crap she
Keep
needs.
it on my iPad.
Right.
For printing?
Yeah, for doing one or two. That's why they call it a print shop.
So, I just wanna go back to number 2, so what's everybody's thoughts? Do we feel that the master plan needs to be reviewed and we need to,
Is that number 10? I mean, I do, yes.
I know I do.
I
Yeah,
believe so as well.
no
I
doubt,
do,
no doubt about it.
I do believe also that we, need the guidance of a professional like Mr. Casson.
I completely agree with you.
Um,
I mean, we don't get paid to do this.
No.
We're not professionals, you have your degree. So we want to do this right, so.
mhm. I think we need to continue the discussion and, I would think, I'm not sure.
What else is there to talk about doing it, or do we just
Well-
make the motion to move
Well, I think
forward?
we need to make the motion that we're going to review the master plan, but that we need to, advise or request that, the village council,
Come up
You
with
know,
money.
well, request that the village council, provide the provisions for us to have Mr. Casson help us redo this.
In any event, we have oversight responsibilities, so.
Right.
We need to decide when we're gonna start on this, or when we're gonna hand it off to somebody. And what our, we need to make a plan. Is the commission gonna go through there? I think this is what we should do. Go through there, look at questionable things, mark them, and, then go from there with the professional help, see
Mhm.
what they want, what they advise. We have no data or anything.
Right.
On the village for 20 years.
Right, and that's where his help will be invaluable. And I mean, I'm just looking at books that I've used
Uh-huh.
in working on a previous review of a master plan. And there's steps in here, so, you go through this book and you determine what's irrelevant, what needs to be changed. His help would be invaluable. But there's all of these steps that you go through, and it's, I think it's something, obviously, the first thing we need to do is everybody needs a copy of it.
And one thing in our classes that
Is it online
was,
as a PDF?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
in our classes that was brought up, Macomb County can also help us with data.
Yes, right.
Mhm.
Well, that's what that,
Do we have an X amount of history going back of all the opposition of certain ordinances that we have? Say you went back 3-4 years and the things that people brought up to our attention that this is outdated, and start with those ones?
We would,
Well, you would work on the zoning ordinance you have to work on the zoning ordinance as you're working on this, and then the zoning ordinance has to be incorporated with this, correct?
Right, you've got to have a zoning plan.
You gotta have a zoning plan. So, there's, Mr. Casson obviously knows how to do it, but there's, so, those are things that have to be looked at along. And of course, there is questions in here about, have you had any issues with zoning and things like that, so.
So we all need copies of that book.
We all need copies of this.
Okay.
Do you have
It's
any
on my
of this or
list.
no?
I will have to see.
Employer, yeah. And then, I guess we're gonna be talking about this master plan forever now, so, I mean, officially.
His
Okay.
Stegner's master
So-
plan looks quite
Yours
older
looks
than yours.
substantially older than
Sure,
mine.
this is,
It looks like it's
this is
probably.
the steam powered version.
Yeah.
That's the steam powered version?
Yeah, so, and
Don't
Lisa's
make
is
fun of
from
old
2008.
2008?
Yeah, and Stegner, yours looks like
It's,
it's way older.
yeah,
18,
all papyrus.
Yeah.
Papyrus. That's,
So,
I just did one for Clinton Township's there's 30 years they hadn't had one done. Imagine how big and growing they are. There are 100,000 people, and they had a 30-year-old master plan.
Every time I drive down those mile roads, 23, 24, I go, remember there used to be a farm there? You know.
So
Yeah.
Steve, you just helped them update theirs,
I did theirs, I did Clarkson, I'm doing Royal Township right now,
okay?
Lennox Township.
so do we need to make a motion to ask the board, or how do we want to, I don't know how you want to do it.
Well, we just inform the board that that's the direction we're headed in.
Right.
That,
But in order to get.
that we have resolved to review and change the master plan.
Mhm.
And they're gonna have to, come up with money, I guess, at some point.
and I think we should reference the state laws that says that we must do
Must.
this. And I think it would probably be appropriate to attend,
I was just gonna
one
say,
of us
yeah,
attend,
I'll go for executive call.
and inform them that this is something that must be done, or we will be in legal jeopardy. And we must do this, and they must include this because we should be working on budget right now.
They are in the process. Yeah, they're having, this would probably be a good time.
Good, perfect.
Then
For them.
let's
Yeah,
let's get our 2 cents worth in there real quick.
Okay.
Because
So-
the budget,
When is-
June 1st is
When is their next meeting?
their next meeting. They just had one last night. So they have budget
Ah.
meetings. They would have one maybe next Monday? Well, actually,
Actually, next Monday's a board meeting.
they have a board meeting next Monday.
But you could put this on there and then they could
Mhm.
prepare
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, we'll talk to Catherine tomorrow. Or, whatever you guys want to do. Stegner, you're in charge.
Yeah, well, let's do that, and I will show up at the next village meeting and
Which would
just
be Monday.
inform them that we're indicted, we need to
Mhm.
What's that,
update our.
13?
Hmm?
Okay. I'll be in Ann Arbor.
So do you need a
Give them
motion, or
Civil
can you
War
just
talk.
ask them to add that to the agenda, or
I think
how?
we should have Catherine add it to the.
Have Catherine add it to the agenda?
Mhm. I have it on my notes for her to do that. And to get each one of you a copy of the master plan.
Yeah,
All
yes.
right, so it's gonna be to actually tell them that we wanna review this and that we would like them to budget the money
Yes.
for Mr. Casson to provide us with assistance.
Mhm. And I think Catherine knows how important that is. So,
Well, we had Megan in the class,
Send that to me.
and
Okay.
she's aware of,
You don't need to send it to me.
okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Megan's aware,
yeah,
Alright.
she was part of our
Catherine's-
class,
Catherine's aware of it,
yeah.
so I don't I
Well,
can speak
what's-
with them, but I
Megan,
don't
not
think it'll be an
Catherine.
issue.
Okay. Okay, anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn. Second that.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that's it.
That's
Thank you,
awesome.
Mr. Casson, for
You're welcome,
coming.
thank you.
We appreciate it.